Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burkhart. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. Today is March 1st. Spring is getting closer, and I am so looking forward to it. I am more than tired of all the cold, gray, rainy days around here in Germany. I hope the weather has been much better where you are, because here it's been a little depressing, to say the least. But today we have got such a fantastic guest that everything is going to seem just a little bit brighter after you hear from Kirstie Page. Not only does she have a book available, which is a free download, by the way, but she is an incredible artist. Her paintings are in collections all around the world. She has got to be one of the people that, honestly, I would just say she is just a sincerely kind, wonderful person. She is somebody that you're going to love to hear from. And it has been such a privilege for me to have been a friend of hers for many years and getting to watch her go from wanting to put out her first paintings for people to purchase to becoming a well-known and admired artist. And nobody deserves it like she does. You're going to love her. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to the interview so you can meet her for yourself. Please welcome to Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart, my friend, Kirstie Page. With so many of my guests, they're good friends of mine. And you and I have known each other for a long time.
We have. And I know, I was just trying to think about how we actually met. I know it was quite a few years ago. It was like, I know it was on some random building your business group
Yes.
short course, try me before you buy me. And we
It was
just,
for
yeah,
female
connected.
entrepreneurs.
There we go. There we go.
And there was a
Yes.
bunch of us who were chatting together about we were all at the same point planning to start a business and trying to get inspiration. And we were all talking about how we were procrastinating. And so I started a group called Feet to the Fire on
That's
Facebook.
right. And I
And we
joined that.
all went in the group together to kind of just keep each other on track and get everybody going. And it's amazing how many women out of that group have got successful businesses now.
Exactly. Well, it's all about just keeping going, isn't it? One foot
Mm-hmm.
in front of the other. Definitely.
So I know you very well, but the listeners may not. So can you
No.
please tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. So, hello, my name is Kirstie Page, and I'm an artist from Australia. And what I do is I create artworks that all have secret stories to bring comfort and to spark joy. I have a style, it's like a mixed media. So, it's got a lot of watercolor and ink and gouache and acrylic. And I just say basically everything other than oil goes in there. And I would describe my style as very narrative, a fusion between Art Nouveau meets 70s retro.
I was talking about with a friend of mine. I said, it is so cool that I have known you from when you first started thinking
Mhm.
about doing your art as a business
Exactly. Yeah,
and
it's been quite the
watching it
journey.
progress.
I know, and that's the thing I've heard from actually quite a lot of people is how they're impressed to have watched me grow.
Mm-hmm.
And because I mean, I started from literally nothing. And so everything that I've done, just it's been built very organically and just literally like what I was saying, one foot in front of the other and just keeping on going and just not stopping and not being afraid to try things, but sort of at the same time being analytical enough to work out, well, what is working, what isn't working, So select and edit as you go. And yeah, it makes it quite exciting. And it's also, I mean, for yourself, it's just so rewarding when you actually manage to achieve something. And when people tell you how much they appreciate what you're doing and how much it means to them, well, that does make it worthwhile for sure.
Oh, yeah. I think still one of my favorite things is when I have had people tell me that they start crying reading my books. And it's just the idea that you're moving someone that much emotionally with your creation.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's it. And, on those days where I'm feeling like, why am I doing this to myself, or having a down day, because
Hmm.
we all have them.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that keeps me going is actually sort of like the messages and the emails and the conversations I've had from people where they've sort of seen my painting and they've read my story or my poem that goes with it. And then they've spoken to me about what an impact it's had and how it's either made them smile or it's just made them feel less alone.
Hmm.
And knowing that really honestly helps to keep me going. It's very powerful to know that you've managed to have that kind of impact, a positive impact. Yeah, make the world a better place.
Yeah, that's always a good goal.
Definitely,
I think we need
definitely.
more people doing that right now.
Yeah, I think a few people have lost their way. A few nations, perhaps. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit of that. But at the same time, while that's going on, I touch on that. I don't shy away from the fact that the world can be sort of pretty crappy at times, that I still prefer to think that the good far outweighs the bad. And we've just got to sometimes dig in and not focus on it, not pretend that it's not happening, but just remember that there's still good. And that's what I certainly do with my art. And that's one of the things also that keeps me going is when I'm having those down days is, the simple fact is that I've been painting for a long time. I've been expressing myself creatively since I was probably about 3 years old,
Oh, wow.
first through music and then later through art. And so I've been always doing it. And it's the way that I make sense of the world because I struggle to understand the world. I can't comprehend some of the things that happen. And through then just going through and the process of thinking up my artworks and thinking about what is the story I want to tell with this and what is it I want to explore with this, that's how I actually work it out.
Well, and
In
that's
my
one of the
head,
things that you
yeah.
do have in common with authors, only
Mhm.
you're doing it with images where we would do it with words.
Exactly. And for me, and I actually do it with words as well, because for me, before I start every single painting, I think about what is the story I want to tell. And I know for a fact, you research, you look up things. I do too. I research what's the meaning or the symbolism behind different components of the painting, and do they work with the theme that I'm wanting to explore? I look up even like the color symbolism and make sure that I'm aware of, well, what does a pattern mean? A lot of people don't realize patterns can mean different things. And so I'll put all of those together. And then what I'll do is in my head as I'm painting, yes, sometimes I'll be thinking about what shade of red or what shade of yellow or blue to apply. But then I'm also thinking about what are the words I'm going to write to accompany this painting. And what I've found over time is with a lot of my followers on my social media, and even, when I meet people face to face, is that I would say that half follow me for the artwork and the other half actually follow me for the stories because they like
That's
what I have
nice.
to say. Yeah. And so I love that. And so everything I do with my artworks, like the story has to be part of it. To me, it's as integral as the painting. And my favorite part of being an artist or a storyteller, whatever you would like to call me, creative, is when I do events or
Mhm.
exhibitions or various art markets and things like that, is that people will walk in and they'll look at my artworks and then they'll say to me, there's something about it and I don't know what. And then I'll say to them, we'll read the story. And I literally have the story printed
Oh,
and they
nice.
will read the story and then they'll be like, oh my gosh. And then they'll say, I get it. And the other thing that I love about the stories is that there's sometimes people have a view with art that you shouldn't share the story, that you should just have the artwork and let people make up their own mind. And at first, because I do live with anxiety. At first, when I sort of heard that view, of course, it freaked me out a little like, oh my gosh, being a rebel, what am I doing? People are going to hate that. But then I just realized that they are not my people. People who feel like that way, they're just obviously not the
Hmm.
people who are going to appreciate what I'm doing. And then the second thing I realized, and this is from having the courage to take my art out there and not hide behind a screen, but literally look people in the eye, is that by me sharing my story, it doesn't stop you from having your own story about the artwork. And
Exactly.
and so many people will, they'll look at the artwork and they'll read my story and then they'll share their story and their take on it. And I love that. That's I just absolutely love that so much. It's one of my favorite things. So yeah, it's been lovely.
Have
Quite
you
the
thought about
journey.
actually doing a picture book?
Yeah, I have actually, and potentially with some of my poetry and quite the little poet. I've got a lot more than I share with all my artworks. They tend to be sort of more the positive type poems. I've got exploring all different ranges of items, but I've been writing poetry since I was a little kid as well. I was quite good at writing when I was at school. That's one concept that's in the back of my mind. I have people quite frequently tell me I should write a book. You need to share this in a book. And so, whether it's a storybook, whether it's a book of poetry, I'm not sure. It's definitely on my one-day list.
Now, you do have a book that is available for a free download on your website.
I do. It's a little short book. And what that is all about is it's about imposter syndrome. And where that came from is when I first decided to call myself an artist and to put my art out there. What happened was I'd been sharing occasionally some artworks and, people would really like them and people would write and say, can you do one for me, like families and friends? But I never shared the stories that went with them. And when I decided, because that was a whole extra level of vulnerability for me personally, because that's really digging into my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first decided to share my art with the stories, it actually created such a strong emotional, basically meltdown that it sort of made me feel bedridden for 3 days. I just couldn't get out of bed. I was so anxious. It was awful. It brought me to my knees. And so what came from that was if I wanted to pursue my love of art and sharing this, I had to learn how to come to terms with it. And what can I do to keep moving forward when it can feel that bad? And so I'm quite a little academic secretly. I've done a lot of undergraduate and postgraduate studies across quite a few different disciplines over the years. And so I basically just started researching imposter syndrome. And I realized that it's not that you can necessarily eliminate it. Unfortunately, I wish we could, but it's that you can learn strategies to sort of turn the volume down on it and know what to do when it rears its ugly head. So basically, I came up with my top 5 tips on helping you master it when it rears its ugly head and just shared them.
I think
Yeah.
that's a pretty common issue with a lot of creative types.
Definitely. I think most people I know at some point in their life, whether it's to do with arts or sports or in the world of academia or even in the workplace, they've had that feeling of I'm a fraud or, it's an absolute fluke that I've made this or, people are going to find out that I'm not really as good as who they think I am or any of those sorts of thoughts. Like it's just when I sort of wrote it, it certainly struck a nerve with quite a few people, like they could relate to it. So
Oh, yeah, that's
definitely
been
agree with
actually
you.
a theme that has come up in several interviews with different writers that
Mm-hmm.
this is something that so many people deal with, especially when they're putting out something that is so personal to them to be judged by strangers.
Exactly. You're putting your heart on the line and and it's really tough to put it out there and not know people are going to tell you that they love it. People are going to tell you that they hate it. And sometimes the worst is when you put your heart into it and no one says anything,
Yeah.
and I mean, and to be honest, in some ways, I think that last might even potentially be the hardest to deal with because, if someone says they hate it, well, they've had a reaction to it. So you've got
Hmm.
to them in a way. So you could argue you've been successful because you've affected them to let
Yeah.
you know enough that they hate it. And if they love it, well, obviously that's what you're aspiring to do. But to create something and put it out there and just nothing,
Hmm.
well, that can be a massive trigger. And so how do you deal with that when that happens? What do you do? What do you say? What's your inner voice saying to you? How do you overcome that little, it's not even a little voice sometimes, that yelling voice inside your head to put that back and just keep going?
So, what strategies have worked for you to overcome some of these issues, for you to get out there? And because I know personally that you had a hard time going to that first art exhibition and standing there talking to people.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So this is what I'd say is quite a few things. I think the first thing is realizing that you're not alone feeling this way. And
Hmm.
that when you look around a room of authors or you look around a room of musicians or artists or sports people or your colleagues in a meeting, I would bet that a huge proportion of them have felt the same feelings that you're feeling now. It's just that people put on that social mask and some are better at hiding it than others. So realizing you're not alone and people talking about it is important. I think also for me is realizing what's the base cause what's underpinning the imposter syndrome? What's right underneath that surface, underneath the negative talk? And for me, it can be really about recognizing that it's actually fear
Hmm.
and acknowledging it. There's a really famous poem by Rumi. I think it's called The Guest House, and I'd encourage people to read it. And what he says in his poem is he invites, instead of turning away from fear and closing the door on it, to invite it in like a guest, to acknowledge it.
Hmm.
And so when you acknowledge that fear and you greet it at the door and you say, like, oh, hello, fear. Here we meet again. Nice to see you. It just helps to sort of destigmatize it and sort of help you just turn the volume down a bit. I think that has really helped. It's about realizing even things like putting it into perspective. And I learned this from when I was working as a grant writer and a fundraiser for not for profits. And it's realizing that no doesn't always mean no. No can mean I'm not ready.
Hmm.
And so, what it means is that when you get a rejection or you have crickets and nothing's happening, it's not necessarily no, it's that people just aren't ready yet. And so it's up to you then to go out and think, okay, well, let's workshop around this and think, what is it that I can do to sort of help nurture that relationship? Because at the end of the day, people respond to those who they know, like, and trust. It's sort of just about being proactive. I also think I'll just share this last one because it's actually the one I battled with the most psychologically. And I actually went and looked up scientific studies for this one because I just thought that maybe it was just a load of rubbish. And that's that affirmations help.
Hmm.
And, I was there, affirmations are all very well and good for those people who can say them and believe them. But for someone like me, turning around and saying, I am a successful artist, when in my head I've got imposter syndrome going, no, you're not. Um, it was rubbish. And so what I did is I was like, okay, I'm getting to the bottom of this. And what I really discovered in a nutshell was that, yes, they do actually have a scientific basis for working, even if you don't actually believe them with what you're saying. And the reason for that is if you think of like neural pathways, our brains aren't necessarily logical as much as we like to think they are. They're not
I
necessarily
know mine's
rational.
not, so.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're not always rational. And what they like to do is, I think the neural pathways, they like to be a little bit lazy and they form like a little pathway of thoughts, and it just gets on that pathway and it comes into your head so easy. So, well, what happens is that when you start saying these affirmations, even though you've got those neural pathways, initially there's that resistance. When you say it, you're actually starting to build those alternative, positive neural pathways, an alternative thought. So it's like, when you get on the train tracks and it could go one way or it could go the other way. If you've said those affirmations to help build that new track, that new path, that new road, it gives it somewhere else to go, which is sort of more positive towards you and affirming for you. And so for me, that has really helped. And so I would encourage you to go and look it up for yourself, but give it a go, even if you don't believe it, but you have to keep doing it. That's the thing. And an affirmation isn't a negative statement. It's not like I won't be rubbish anymore.
Hmm.
It's not
Yeah.
like that. No, it's got to be a positive statement. So just make sure it's framed, whatever you come up with for yourself, is that it's positive. And it doesn't always have to be huge. It's just like I'm making progress every day, or I take positive action every day. And even when you have something like that, then you have the ability to look back and see that, yeah, you did actually do something no matter how small. And so for me with my art, how that breaks down is, for instance, of course I have times where I don't feel motivated, and that's been an interesting thing. I'm sure it's the same with you, Dianne, is with our journey that we've been on, is those people that fall by the wayside while we keep going. And it's that ability when you're not feeling motivated and you're feeling not feeling it for
Hmm.
whatever reason might be going on. For me, I tell myself just one line, just one line. And I sit down and I just commit to just one line or just 5 minutes. And sometimes I will set a timer for 5 minutes, and it is literally 5 minutes. That timer goes off and I'm up and I'm out of there. But it doesn't matter because I've done it. And as far as I'm concerned, just one line, it might not be much, but it's still moving you forward. It's
We know,
still
and
moving you in. Yeah.
my big thing lately has been I will be more organized because I am so all over the place all the time. And I get
Mm-hmm.
things done, but I also forget things.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently just bought a planner that has sections for planning projects, and it has the whole month, and then it has separated out for the day. And I'm actually starting to plan out for 2 hours, I will do my edits. For 2 hours, I will work on my
Hmm.
website. For 2 hours, I'll get ready for an interview. And
Brilliant.
because I was finding that I was working so much on my website and my podcast and all the social media that I was forgetting to write. I
Hmm.
did not write anything all last year. I spent all my time working on my website and my podcast and kept forgetting to write a book.
I completely can relate. And I'm the same with, and I think, you know what? I think it's the curse of any of us like indie creatives who are out there bootstrapping it or whatever the word is. I don't know what the
Hmm.
word is, but just working our way to make it without having sort of unlimited funds
Hmm.
where we have to do everything. You know, how do you differentiate yourself in a world where there's the millions of people trying to aspire to the same as you?
Hmm.
Well, you got to do it. But at the end of the day, I completely agree with you. You have to pull it back and realize what you're getting caught up on. And it's about working smarter, isn't it? And I
Yeah.
think that's what it really helps to do is to have that focus. And I think there's something about setting like a timer or something, because when you know there's like a little mini deadline, it just really helps. Is it like the Pomodoro method? I
Hmm.
haven't tried it, but I've read about it. It sounds really good. For 45 minutes work and you take 15 minutes every hour and you just do a break. And so you do it as concerted effort. Such a good idea.
Oh,
Maybe I
nice.
should try that. We should try it. Yeah. But I know that it's like a good writing strategy, but yeah. Hmm.
Then we have Alexa in almost every room in this house, and I'm constantly setting timers with Alexa to remind me to do something. Because especially whenever I get focused on designing photos or logos or the website, I can be sitting here in this chair for like 5 hours straight and not even
Yeah.
realize that time has passed.
Yeah.
And I look
Yeah.
up and my day is gone, and I am like, okay, it's like, yes, my website is all fixed, but now nothing else has gotten done.
It's so annoying when that happens.
Hmm.
And, you know, it's the same with me. And this is another thing that I really learned when I was doing my grant writing back in the day. I would say I used to be a perfectionist and like being a perfectionist can be incredibly debilitating. It really, really can. And what I sort of learned was when I was writing grants professionally, you have a deadline. You've
Hmm.
got to get it done. And if you miss that deadline, well, you're going to get zero money. That's it, babes. You're out.
Yeah.
And so, what I had to learn pretty damn quickly was called the 90-10 rule. And so, once you've got it 90%, is that extra 10%, is it actually worth it? Is it going to change the outcome? And once I sort of started asking myself those questions, that's when life got easier.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that was really comforting for me when I did a lot of learning about, I guess, writing effectively or strategically or persuasively was, gosh, what's his name? I think it might be Bob Ahern or something like that, Robert Ahern. And he talked about with fundraising, and he talked about one of the crippling fears for many fundraisers writing newsletters is the fear of either a typo or a grammatical error,
Oh, yeah.
and how that would cause people to just not send
Hmm.
it because it'd be crippling. And and his take was basically what you need to realize is that 95% of people's eyes will just gloss over it and won't even realize.
Yeah, true.
So he's like, just do it.
Hmm.
Just do it. If there's a typo, just do it. And so that allows me now when I go and I sort of put a post on Instagram or it goes on Facebook, and then I'll go back a week later and I'll realize that that damn autocorrect has made a bloody typo, or a word is misplaced, or I've realized that my brain has clicked over it too quickly and a sentence is poorly constructed. I've learned to give myself some grace because I realize that 90% of people aren't even going to really focus on it. And at the end of the day, I like to think people are forgiving. Not to say that I try to make errors all the time. Of course, I try not to, but it's just about learning that when you do, it's not the end of the world.
Well,
Yeah.
and the one thing that people need to kind of keep in mind too, especially like you were talking about with grant writing, if you don't submit it, if you don't put it out there, you're never going to get any feedback on it. You're never going to
Mm-hmm.
get any reward off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you do put it out and there's a mistake, you might get a few rejections, you might get a few criticisms, but you're also going to get other feedback too that is rewarding for you for doing that effort.
Exactly.
And if you
Exactly.
don't do it, you won't get anything.
That's it. And like this is the thing is that when I was a grant writer and I had quite a high success rate, and people would say, well, why? Why have you got a high success rate? And I worked out what it was. It's not because I was a better writer than anyone else or anything like that. But what it was is two things. Is one, before I actually would apply for the grant, I'd go and I'd do research. I'd
Mm-hmm.
go and I'd look up who are the past grant recipients, who won in the past, and what did they win for? Is this the kind of thing that I'm looking to do? Is this a good fit, or is it just I'm dreaming?
Mm-hmm.
And then what I would do sometimes is then I take it a step further. I'd go, okay, oh, look at this person. They won. I don't know who they are. They're a total stranger, but I'd, I'd call them
Mm-hmm.
and I'd say, hi, congratulations. I saw you won this grant. I was wondering, would you mind if I asked you just a couple of questions about it? And people generally, 9 times out of 10, they'd be so kind and they would share. And then the third thing that I would do, sometimes I would write to the grants officer or I'd ring them up and just speak to them and let them know that you're intending on putting in an application, because then they know you as more of a person rather than just a piece of paper. And sometimes they were so great, they would even review your grant application for you and provide you with feedback. And if you're not calling them up, and you could be missing out on this, which other people are getting. And then finally, the last thing would be, if I was unsuccessful, and it happened quite a fair proportion of the time, which is probably good training for when I became an artist, is, you hear no's.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing. It's so disappointing. But what I would do is not just say, oh, boo-hoo. I mean, I'd do that. But what
Mm-hmm.
I would try to do is contact them and ask for feedback. But getting that feedback, that's where a no can mean, like where I mentioned before, no means I'm not ready. You can
Mm-hmm.
find out, well, they liked it, but this is the reason why. They wanted more of this focus. Or, Kirstie, what you wrote was excellent, but we had 20 people who also wrote excellent. And unfortunately, yours, as well as written as it was, it just wasn't one that was pulled out of the hat,
See, and I
So,
think that is such a great strategy because it also gets rid of a lot of self-doubt and fears why it was
mhm.
rejected, because a lot of times you can build it up to be way more than it actually was.
It is. It might not even have anything to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. And so that's what I learned. And so, in terms of that and applying it to what we're doing, I mean, whenever you're putting an entry in for submissions or you're putting in a book proposal, or for me, you're writing to someone and you're inquiring about wholesaling or gallery showing or any of these kinds of things, hearing no is just part of the game. And, in my early days, when I was battling with the whole imposter syndrome issue, a friend who was a businesswoman and has a successful business,
Mm-hmm.
and I was having a bit of a boohoo moment. And she just looked at me and she just basically said quite bluntly, she's like, Kirstie, you've got to toughen up. You've got to get used to hearing no with your art. You've just got to suck it up. You've got to learn that you're going to hear no. And you're going to probably hear more no's than you are going to hear yeses. And if you can't handle that, then you need to consider. And it was pretty brutal, but I tell you what, she was right. Because until you come to terms with that you're just going to keep going and you have your own reasons for keeping going, you're just going to find yourself buffeted. Yeah. When they're there, people look at my artworks and they'll sort of often look at them. And it's even more in real life. Like, I wish you could see them in real life, Dianne. One day you will, I'm sure, because people will look at them and they'll just be like, oh, there's something about it. And I don't know, I'm not sure what it is. And I'm sure it's because of the symbolism that's incorporated into it. That's from the secret stories. Yeah, it's
Well, and
quite
besides
amazing.
besides seeing them, I plan on owning one of these days. It's
Oh,
like
that'd be nice.
as soon because I
Yeah.
keep telling you, as soon as we get a house, I'm buying one to put in our living room. That
Oh,
that is a definite
fabulous.
plan. We have that
That
in our budget.
I love that. And I've been so fortunate, Dianne, because I've got collectors all around the world. And, while I'm in Brisbane, in Queensland, Australia, I connect with people and I've made friendships like you. I mean, I love that we're so connected and so supportive of each other, the other sides of the world. And
Mhm.
and that's the thing about what we do, is that we have the ability to reach way past sort of geographical boundaries. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So yeah. So really that's me.
And you're not just an artist though, you're an academic. You actually have some very impressive credentials. It's like you have postgraduate degrees in music, education, and communications, and you had additional studies in dietetics and dementia. Worked
Yeah.
with aged care, and you were a certified dementia trainer.
Yeah, I was. And so it's quite random, all the things. I've studied quite a diverse range of areas over the years, as you can see. But what I would say is the connection. I always sort of wondered, what is the connection? And when you pull it down, it's all about connecting with people, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, supporting people, making people feel better, empowering people. And quite randomly, through my art, I honestly feel like it's all come together. And then the dementia side of things, well, that actually came across with two ways in that, first of all, storytelling in terms of when you're working with older people, and it might be people living with dementia, is that there's something called reminiscence therapy. And that's where you come and you share stories of times of the past and happy memories and moments and reflecting. That can be really powerful and really uplifting for people. So for me, sharing my stories is it's sort of tying back and honoring that side of things. And even with my art, I was fortunate to win a Queensland government grant to create my Remember When art cards. And
Mm-hmm.
I do sell them primarily as artworks. They're hand finished art cards and they all have a little secret story. But what I've done is I've printed them on a really, really thick cardstock. They're thicker than a bar coaster. They're thick. They're very
Mm-hmm.
thick. They're robust. They're designed to be held in the hand. And the concept is to empower families and friends to write moments, memories, stories on the back of each card and then gift it. Because what I used to see is that when I used to visit residents in aged care facilities, is we don't necessarily realize it, that when we would send a greeting card, we don't necessarily think much of it. When we read a greeting card that we receive, we might get it and then put it in a drawer or put it on a mantle for a bit and throw it in the bin. But for many residents in an aged care facility, they would read these cards over and over and over again. And to be reminded of moments and memories and shared memories about what this moment meant, or honoring the person, their ability to cook an amazing pasta sauce, or how much they used to love gardening, is just really, really powerful.
Kind of a
Yeah.
thing is even good for somebody like me with
Oh,
short-term memory issues and
mm-hmm.
neurological problems, because I keep every card somebody sends to me, because if I don't, I will forget it after I read it. So I
Exactly.
keep
Yep.
them to look at them every once in a while to remind me, because otherwise that
Exactly.
memory would just be gone, because unless it's in my long-term memory, I don't remember it. And I even
Exactly.
keep copies, I keep prints of cards I send to other people, because once I seal up that envelope, I have no idea what's in that card anymore.
Yep. And I'm not at all surprised you're saying that at all. Not at all. And that's the other reason I actually came up with the idea, Diane. And that's because, for many people living with dementia, and there's over 100 different types of dementia. So it's like an umbrella term,
Hmm.
is that for many of them, they can no longer share their stories. And so what used to sort of hurt my heart was that you'd have all these care staff going in and out every day, and they would know nothing about the person, who they are. And so for me, giving families an opportunity to share who they are was really empowering. Because I think if you can see the person beyond the diagnosis, that's such a great thing. So, yeah, so there you go. So,
Definitely.
in terms of it, while I'm working as an artist, all these different aspects throughout my life have all come together and are definitely part of what I do. And I think, we're looking for that little point of difference, aren't we? And so that's mine. Yeah, that's me.
Now, I know that there's also a thing on your website about you're going to be having other things to
Mm,
purchase with your images on it, like
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
pillows, I thought was one.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm literally working on those now behind the scenes. So what I've wanted to do is come up with a few different ways of sort of making the most of my art. And so what I would explain about my artworks is that my artworks, when you go and please visit me, it'd be lovely for you to go and have a look. They're very intricate. So a 30 centimeter by 30 centimeter painting, so like 12 inches by 12 inches painting, that would probably take me anywhere from 12 to 20 hours to paint because it's so intricate. There's so many layers of work in there. And so for me to just sell one painting, to me, it's not a great return for investment if we're looking at it strategically. And not everyone always has wall space
Hmm.
to be able to hang paintings on a wall. And so, one idea that I've been working on going to be my limited edition art cushions. What I'm wanting to do is to make it very special, where I'm getting some of my artworks printed onto fabric, and I am either making myself or my daughter or a family member. We're hand making cushions, and they're printed locally by also a female owned business in Brisbane. And I'm limiting them to 50 cushions per artwork to make them sort of special. So
Mhm.
it's sort of something that when you own one, you actually have a numbered edition
Oh,
in your
nice.
home. So yeah, so I'm working on that right now and painting that. And I've also sort of branched out a little because I realized that some people want to have my art sort of enriching people's home and bringing color and bringing comfort and bringing joy. So I've sort of been behind the scenes. I haven't even announced this yet. So you're getting like the big scoop.
Ooh, yay.
I know it is cool. Yeah. So I've been creating some greeting cards. And on the back, I've got the link for you to be able to actually turn over, and you can either use a QR code to go to it, or if you're a bit shy of QR codes, I've put the link for you to go and read the secret story.
Oh, no.
And then I've also even got, wait for it, some tea towels, because art tea towels in Australia are quite a big thing.
Oh, they're big here
And
too.
are they? Yeah. So I've got some of my designs and they're pretty cool. And I've literally paid for them yesterday. And so they should be here in the next week or so. And I've got 5 different designs. And what I've done is in the packaging, because like I mentioned before, the secret stories to me are as important as the artwork. The
Mhm.
secret stories are all on the back of the packaging.
Oh,
So you
nice.
can read the secret story. So when you purchase one, you can know what was Kirstie thinking at the time she created. What was she thinking? Well, you will find out because it is there, because the stories matter. So yeah. And there's many other things I've got in my mind that I'm looking to do. And I mean, of course, I sell my original artwork, the Remember When art cards. So I hand finish every single one of those art cards with gold ink and hand signed by me because I want them to be special.
You have sold your paintings
Mm.
internationally.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
What is the most surprising place that you have sent one?
Oh, good question. Oh, look, well, I found it exciting. I've sent to sort of like to Norway. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, given
Yeah.
that I'm in Australia, in
Yeah.
Brisbane, okay, can we go from one extreme to the other? It was pretty cool. I got quite frequently to America, to Canada, all over the UK, New Zealand, obviously all around Australia. I haven't got to Asia yet, but I'm sure that will happen one day.
Mhm.
And I haven't got to Africa, but I'm not doing too badly. It's fun. It's beautiful. Do you want me to tell you a story about like this is the impact that what we do can have? It was during 2020 when we were all in lockdown,
Mhm.
pretty much around the world. And I mean, we all felt for poor residents in an aged care facility, and they were just locked down, no visitors. This lady bought a box of my art cards and she sent them to her 99-year-old grandmother. She sent them and she sort of wrote on the back of the cards. And then she rang me a few weeks later and she was ringing me to say that when she sent the cards to her grandmother then took the box of the cards and she went down to the lunchroom to join the ladies to show them the cards. And she said to me, you know, Kirstie, what you don't realize is that we've been trying to get her to leave her room for 3 months.
Oh,
She's
wow.
been too scared to leave her room. And so those cards gave her the first social interaction with her peers that she'd had in 3 months.
Wow.
And that gave me chills. Yeah, I get
Yes.
emotional thinking about it. When I think back to those things, that's what keeps me going.
I can see why.
There's many more stories. I feel privileged to have been able to share, and it's literally a vehicle for sparking joy and bringing comfort.
Now, one of the things that I've started doing with all of my guest interviews is 5 quick questions. These
Oh,
are basic questions. You don't need to think about the answer very long. Just go with what comes to your mind first.
all right. Oh, gosh.
All right.
Okay. I'll give it a go.
Question 1. Is there any piece that you have done that you would like to go back and redo because you have a different
Oh,
feeling about it now?
oh, gosh. The painting I'm working on right now. Oh, my gosh. It's doing my head in. Go on my Instagram, you'll see the first part. I've started
Mhm.
it, and then you'll be going, why hasn't she posted an update? It's because I'm looking at it and I'm going, I need to fix it. So, yes, definitely.
Okay, question 2. What is your favorite part about being an artist?
Connections, connecting with people. Yeah. And that and being able to make sense of the world. Just express myself and an outlet for expression and how privileged I am to be able to have that outlet. But yeah, definitely the ability to connect with people. number one, over and above. Make the world a better place.
So, question 3, what is the hardest part about being an artist for you?
Oh, gosh, good question. It's it's all the different hats you have to wear in order to be able to make a living from it. If I could just paint every day and have everyone else do everything else, all the admin, all the marketing, all the social media, all that stuff, all the packing, all the sending, all the emailing, well,
Mhm.
hey, wouldn't it just be a lovely life? It would be awesome. But yeah, it's just all the other stuff that goes with it that, as we touched on before, can just kill so much time.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like I need to say amen to that one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Number 4, we already talked about that you research and you do the stories first and then the paintings.
Mm.
Has it ever
So
flipped around
yeah,
and been the other way?
no, I've never really painted it and then gone after what am I going to write about this? No, because I really mean it when I say the story is as important to me as the artwork. Without one, there's not the other. So there you go.
Okay, number 5. What would you like to see your artwork on next?
Oh, next. Well, I want to see them on my cushions in people's homes.
Hmm.
Definitely. I want to see them in people's homes. I've obviously got my tea towels coming out. I want to see my art on gallery walls around the world. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be
Definitely.
nice.
I've got some plans, maybe towards the end of this year, next year, some sort of exhibitions coming up in Australia, which I'm looking forward to. But obviously, that's in the future that I'm planning. But yeah, I think it would be sort of more of that international reach. That would be lovely. Definitely.
I seriously want to see you do a picture book, though.
But what would I write about?
A coffee table book where
Oh,
you
a
open
coffee
the
table.
book and,
And
one
there it
side of the
is.
page is your picture and the other side is the story or the poem. And
I
that's
should
all it
do
is,
that.
just like,
Yeah, I
everything in
should.
there.
I really should. And I
Yes, you
have had
should.
I've had a lot of people tell me I should. So maybe I will. Maybe you're encouraging me. I'm going to, you know what? I'll add it to my list.
I seriously think that that would sell so well for you.
Oh, thank you. I
And
agree. Yeah, you're right. I should commit to doing that for sure. We should chat.
oh, yeah. Of course, I'm going to have links to your website and Facebook, your Kirstie.
Kirstie Page. Yep.
Yes, all of the social media stuff that you want to share is going to be in the description of the podcast. And it's also going to be on my website, burkhartbooks.com/podcast. And it will remain up there in perpetuity.
Oh,
So
thank you.
anybody who goes and searches this interview, they can find the links to find your work.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you so much. And I'm going to make sure that you're going onto mine as well. You're going to go on my website too. Yeah, we're going to work that out, Dianne. It'll be fun to support each other.
Well, and that's one thing that I had tried to get going with a bunch of people was to have a page on your website that would be just a link guide to other people that you would like to recommend. If you're looking for an author, here's some great authors that you can support. If you're looking for an artist, here's some great artists that you can
Oh,
support.
that's a good idea. I like that
Nobody,
idea.
I had that on my website for years and I got like 2 people who were willing to do an
Oh,
exchange because that
oh,
was my
okay.
thing was, okay, if we're going to do this, we have to do an exchange. You put me on your site and I put you on mine. And there was only 2 people who were willing to exchange.
Oh, that's crazy. That's about that. I honestly believe, and that's one of the things is, with many artists is they go, oh, there's so many artists in the world. There's no room
Mhm.
for me. Well, I honestly believe there's room for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
I honestly believe that. Like I truly, in my heart of hearts, I believe that. And like, just like there is for authors.
90% of the indie authors that I find are very supportive of each other. There's only a few that are like, no, this is a competition. It's me against everyone else. It's like, no, no, it's really not.
It doesn't work like that. Exactly. It doesn't. You're right. You're so true.
Everybody who reads has more than one author that they will read in the same genre and in other
Yeah,
genres. It's like, trust me, we can all get in there. It's fine. Don't get so
absolutely.
uptight.
For sure. For sure. I feel like it's been such a comprehensive discussion. Don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, we've touched on everything.
So I appreciate you getting up so early in the morning to have this interview with me because the time difference between Germany and Australia can be crazy to figure out at times.
It certainly was. But like it was an absolute pleasure. I've had a ball.
So
Absolute ball.
Thank you so much for being on the show. And whenever you have anything else that you want to share, any other exclusives or even not exclusives, you are more than welcome to come back and share it with the audience.
Oh, thank you so much. I'll tell you what, when I have my book,
Yes.
let's do it. Well, thank you again so much, Dianne. I've loved it.
Me too. And we will talk again.
Take care. Bye.
So there you have it. My interview with artist Kirstie Page. And isn't she just an incredible, wonderful person? I swear, I love talking to her. She can make your whole day. And you should check out her artwork because I swear this woman has a unique talent. And I come from a family of artists, so I have grown up seeing all different forms. And I tell you, she has a vision that is so unique to her, and it is just incredible. Take some time today, check out her website. You will not regret it. Now, I do want to give myself a little bit of a plug here because I am going to be interviewed tonight on another podcast. My friend Lance Steen Anthony Nielsen has the Outcast Creative, and he has an industry interviews show where he interviews all different kinds of creative types and producers. And tonight I am going to be on an author panel with psychological thriller bestseller author Val Collins, who you might remember from my show last week. I cannot wait to talk to Val again. This will be fantastic. We will be interviewed tonight at 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time live on the YouTube channel for the Outcast Creative, the industry interviews. I will have a link in our podcast description here so that you can find it tonight. It will also be up on their YouTube channel after the live broadcast. Now, this will be your opportunity to hear me live. Tonight, it's 3 p.m. Central Standard Time for the U.S., 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time for those of you in Europe. It will also be on their Outcast Creative YouTube channel after the live broadcast. So there you go. And I think that's about all I have to update you on today. I'm working hard on the last book for the Into the West saga serial, Into the West Family Ties. That one is coming along surprisingly well. And I think next week I might even do a little bit of a sneak peek after the first part of Lance's interview. We'll see. Or I don't know, maybe I'll wait until after I get done with both of his interviews, and my next show after that will make it about my books and do a sneak peek from the things that I've been writing. Because I actually could give you a sneak peek from Into the West Family Ties and from The Touch, because I've kind of been working on them both at the same time a little bit. But there you have it, folks. So much going on. I hope you enjoyed the interview today with Kirstie Page. Please go to her website. Check out her artwork. She's incredible. Check out the Outcast Creative interview tonight on their YouTube channel. The links for all of these things are in the podcast description. And now you know what you have to do. Please, please go forth and be happy.